Genesis 31. Jacob flees from Laban. Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, "Jacob has taken everything that belonged to our father, and he has gained all his wealth from what was once our father's." And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude toward him was no longer as it had been before. Then the Lord said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your fathers and your family, and I will be with you." So Jacob sent word to Rachel and Leah, asking them to meet him in the field where his flocks were. He said to them, "I can see that your father's attitude toward me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. You both know that I have worked for your father with all my strength. Yet he has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But God has not allowed him to harm me. If he said, 'The speckled animals will be your wages,' then the flocks bore speckled young. And if he said, 'The streaked ones will be your wages,' then the flocks bore streaked young. In this way, God has taken away your father's livestock and given them to me. During the breeding season, I had a dream in which I saw that the male goats mating with the flock were streaked, speckled, or spotted. In the dream, the angel of God called to me, 'Jacob,' and I replied, 'Here I am.' He said, 'Look up and see that all the male goats mating with the flock are streaked, speckled, or spotted, because I have seen all that Laban has done to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and made a vow to me. Now get up, leave this land, and return to your homeland.' Then Rachel and Leah responded, 'Do we still have any inheritance left in our father's household? Doesn't he treat us like foreigners? He sold us and used up the money paid for us. So whatever wealth God has taken from our father belongs to us and our children. Now do whatever God has told you.' So Jacob gathered his children and wives and placed them on camels. He took all his livestock and possessions, everything he had acquired in Paddan Aram, and set out to return to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. While Laban was away shearing his sheep, Rachel stole her father's household idols. Meanwhile, Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean by not telling him that he was leaving. So Jacob fled with everything he had, crossed the Euphrates River, and set out toward the hill country of Gilead. Laban pursues Jacob. 3 days later, Laban was told that Jacob had fled, taking his relatives with him. He pursued Jacob for 7 days and caught up with him in the hill country of Gilead. But that night, God appeared to Laban the Aramean in a dream and warned him, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad." When Laban reached Jacob, Jacob had already set up his camp in the hill country of Gilead. Laban and his relatives camped nearby. Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done? You deceived me and carried off my daughters like captives of war. Why did you run away in secret and deceive me? If you had told me, I would have sent you away with joy, singing, and the music of tambourines and harps. You didn't even let me kiss my daughters and grandchildren goodbye. You have acted foolishly. I have the power to harm you. But last night, the God of your father warned me, saying, 'Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad.' Now you have left because you long to return to your father's house. But why did you steal my gods?" Jacob answered, "I left secretly because I was afraid you would take your daughters from me by force. But if you find your gods with anyone here, that person shall not live. In the presence of our relatives, search and take back whatever belongs to you." Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. So Laban searched Jacob's tent, then Leah's tent, and the tents of the 2 female servants, but found nothing. After leaving Leah's tent, he entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had hidden the household idols in her camel's saddle and was sitting on them. Laban searched the entire tent, but found nothing. Rachel said to her father, "Please don't be angry, my lord, that I cannot stand up in your presence, for I am having my monthly period." So Laban searched, but did not find the idols. Then Jacob became angry and confronted Laban. "What is my crime? What have I done to make you chase me down? You have searched through all my belongings. Have you found anything that belongs to you? Put it here before my relatives and yours. Let them judge between us. For 20 years I have been with you. Your sheep and goats never miscarried, and I never ate rams from your flock. If any animal was killed by a wild beast, I did not bring it to you. I took the loss myself. And you demanded that I pay for anything stolen, whether it happened in daylight or at night. I suffered in the scorching heat during the day and shivered in the cold at night, and sleep fled from my eyes. For 20 years I serve in your household, 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flocks, and you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham and the fear of Isaac, had not been with me, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God saw my hardship and the work of my hands, and last night he rebuked you. Jacob and Laban's covenant. Laban answered Jacob, "These women are my daughters, these children are my children, and these flocks are my flocks. Everything you see is mine. Yet what can I do today about my daughters or the children they have borne? Come, let's make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between us." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. He told his relatives, "Gather stones." They piled them up into a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jegar-Sahadutha, and Jacob called it Galeed. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me today." That is why it was named Galeed. It was also called Mizpah, because Laban said, "May the Lord watch between you and me when we are apart. If you mistreat my daughters or take other wives besides them, even though no one else is here, remember that God is a witness between you and me." Laban continued, "Look at this heap and this pillar I have set up between us. They stand as a witness that I will not cross over to harm you, and you will not cross over to harm me. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their ancestors, judge between us." So Jacob swore an oath by the fear of his father Isaac. He then offered a sacrifice in the hill country and invited his relatives to a meal. After they had eaten, they spent the night there. Early the next morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren and daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home.